Hello from London. Let me just get the machine up and working here. All right. So hopefully you can see a title slide, Brand Communications in Times of Crisis. Yes, so a pleasure to be here virtually. I would have much rather have been, excuse me, been with you today in, oh, excuse me, real quick. Hay fever season. Would have much rather been there in person in Riga. In fact, my family holidayed in Yermala just last summer, so I was very much looking forward to coming back. But that will have to wait until another day, and we will meet again. And so, had I been in Riga, I was originally planning on discussing the importance of listening to what your customers and consumers in general are saying in the social sphere, and how that you can use that to improve your customer service and your products and services. But given recent events, I thought it best to save that for the later time in October. Instead, I wanted to talk about something that's probably a lot more critical and relevant to brands and organizations today, and that is communicating in times of crisis. And what I'll show you here is some great work being done by my colleagues in Twitter Next, which is our brand strategy organization. And I'll also be highlighting a poll we took and some data we ran from Twitter users on their views of the current situation, how brands should act and respond. And that's me there again. I'm part of Twitter's Data Enterprise Solutions team. We are a small but perfectly formed team that work with organizations of many shapes and sizes, helping them to get insight and value from our data across a host of different use cases. I'm at Joseph L. Rice. Questions, comments, or complaints could always use a follow, so there you have it. But on to the show. What I want to talk about today in the next 18 minutes, firstly, what's happening? So what are we seeing on Twitter, the conversation around COVID? And secondly, then, what's appropriate for my brand right now? And finally, what do people need right now in these interesting days? We have 4 clear need states that have emerged from people in these challenging times, and I want to walk you through those. Now, to begin, I want to say that we strongly feel that this is not a marketing opportunity to capitalize on. People are losing family and friends, their businesses, their livelihoods. So it is a very serious time, and it is an opportunity more than anything else to pull together and support one another. And so we do hope that this advice helps you navigate the days and weeks ahead and helps you help others. In terms of the COVID conversation, since March 1st, we've seen well over 1 billion mentions of COVID-19, and that's roughly 7% of all tweets globally. And to give you some idea, that's about two tweets a second. I also just pulled some data. Interestingly, hashtag coronavirus is now the second most used hashtag of 2020, followed only by hashtag new profile pic. So some things never change. So it just gives you some scope and scale as to the conversation. It's clearly a big one. And the positive news is I think there's some signs of improvement here. We're seeing overall sentiment and conversation improve, however small, but we will take that. And this might be because people are starting to come to grips with the new normal and finding ways to get by with a little help from one another, but also some humor here and there. And of course, Twitter has always been a great place for both. For example, Alan here has a friend doing a great job of staying busy. And he says, if you want an indication of how much of a hellscape this is going to be, last night a mate told our friendship group he couldn't do a virtual dinner on Friday because he had other digital commitments. So a virtual man about town, it seems. So well done there to that gentleman. Of course, routines are important to our sanity. So it's great to see that Londoners and New Yorkers are doing their best to stick to that. I'm not entirely sure that the tube is something that I miss, but I do appreciate the idea here from the Greek analyst. We're also finding ways to integrate with new coworkers. I mean, that's not always easy, as we know. So a nice thread here from Shannon, who says, tell us about a young child, but say my coworker or my friend's coworker instead of their name. Because, you know, this is a reality now for some of us. Example, my coworker asked for yogurt and is now crying because I gave her yogurt. And then Jen chimes in, my coworker just shrieked at the top of her lungs because another coworker in another room made a sound she did not like. And finally, Shannon again here, one of my coworkers bit another coworker on their butt because I thought it would be funny. Something you don't hear every day. And a final example of new coworkers behaving badly. Rob says, I pop out of a meeting to get a notepad. I come back to be told by a very senior member of Nike that my 5-year-old came in, did an impromptu naked bum dance at the screen, then ran out giggling. To top it off, they said, and your son is still more professional than you. So to that, I think this tweet from Hunter Walk is spot on. Something we should all consider. You never need to apologize if your child or pet jump into the video conference. We're all human beings just trying to hold it together during extraordinary times. And I like seeing your life. If we're going to do business together, please bring your whole self. So just a quick warm up there as to some of the things that we're seeing on Twitter, how people are coping, how routines are changing. And Twitter has always been a great place to understand the people's moods, mindsets, and need states. And it is interesting to see how those things are now shifting as we move indoors. Now, I want to talk about a question then that is asked by a lot of marketers, and that is, what's appropriate for my brand right now? I'm going to take you through 5 things that should be helpful in navigating these times. But first, I want to touch upon something which is the most important, I think, and I think perfectly articulated here by Rachel. And she says, as brands look for meaningful, purposeful ways to engage during the outbreak, remember how you behave is more meaningful and valuable than what you say. So the importance of actions and not just words. And a great example here is from Aldi in the UK, to thank their colleagues for going the extra mile and the extra work time they're putting in. They gave everybody a 10% bonus, which I'm sure was much appreciated. So again, real actions and how you treat people that will be remembered. So back to those 5 things to consider that I mentioned. The first is keep up to date with what's happening. So with things are moving so quickly, and with the pandemic in different phases in different places, it's really important that you know the current mood and the context locally before you communicate. It's no surprise that I would say this, but Twitter is a great place to do just that. When you go into the app, at the very top, you will see a constantly updated, curated list of news from officials and experts, so helping you keep on top of what's going on. So whether it's Twitter or your other chosen source of news, keeping up to date and keeping that context in mind before communicating is crucial. The second thing is to know your brand. And this isn't about looking at what others are doing, but thinking about what you do well and what support you are uniquely positioned to provide. And a great example here is of Google, who extended their Hangouts globally to small businesses and educators, allowing people to communicate and collaborate better. Another great example is LVMH, who transitioned from producing perfumes to producing hand sanitizers. And of course, we've heard of all kinds of retailers, auto manufacturers making ventilators and whatnot. So again, knowing your brand, sticking to what you know well, and by doing that, helping the cause. Third, be thoughtful about tone of voice. So empathy and an understanding being key here. And how do you get this right? Well, many ways, but one is by listening to what customers and people are saying in general, and trying to reflect this in your own tone. In some research we ran, 65% of respondents said brands should not be using their normal tone of voice right now. Okay, and a great example of this is from comedian Kamal here, who shared an uncharacteristically straight, serious tweet, which I guess got people's attention because they're used to the normally satirical, very dry humor from him. And by the way, that was one of the most shared COVID-related tweets in the last month. So again, speaking to the importance of tone. Next, we have anticipating changes in behavior. So as we change the way we behave and interact, brands also need to change and adapt to this as well. And so what you're starting to see is things like film studios shifting to streaming, things that would have normally gone to cinema coming out first on streaming services. Obviously e-commerce, and there will be experts at the conference today who know way more about that than I. Homeschooling becoming a huge thing, a struggle for many parents, myself included. Having to support my own daughter for the past 4 weeks, I can only say God bless to our teachers, and you know, when this is over, may they get very generous raises, because we need them. And then finally, staying in your lane. So really, this just means being true to yourself, your mission, and what your business, your organization does best. There's a temptation, I think, to associate everything that you do with COVID-19 in some way. But unless you generally have something to offer there, it's best to stick with what you do best. Excuse me. And referencing that the previous survey I mentioned, we surveyed 500 Twitter users. 51% polled, those polled said that seeing ads from brands gave them a sense of normality, which again is important in these times. And by the way, there's a great study done, it might be worth checking out, back in 2008 from the IPA, the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising. It's a mouthful. And basically they found that pulling back on advertising in the short term can have a significant negative long-term impact in terms of share of voice and then revenue. So it is important that organizations see beyond the current few weeks or months and maintain their messaging and their tone of voice. So that was a whirlwind tour via 5 things to consider when evaluating what's appropriate for your brand. For the third and final part of my talk, I wanted to address the question, what might people need right now? And that could perhaps provide clues as to how you can better support them in these challenging times. So based on our research over the past few weeks, we've seen 4 key themes or need states emerge from our surveys and from Twitter data, from the hundreds of millions of tweets that are sent each and every day. And these need states serve to guide brands and help them navigate. Not every company, sadly, is going to get through this pandemic unscathed, but I do think that by listening to what's being said, by being sensitive to these need states, brands will have a much better chance of exiting the other side of this. So The first one then, it's about having accurate and reliable information. So no surprise, people want credible info from reliable sources. And we are increasingly looking to leaders for direction. And interestingly, we found, again, from some of the research we've been doing, that verified people are 2.5 times more likely to participate in COVID-19 conversations than non-verified people. We also found that the primary way or method for sharing information for most of us is through retweeting. So about 70% of COVID-19 related tweets were actually retweets. So people sharing things that they found interesting and wanting to help others. And here's just an example of a tweet from Tim Cook highlighting what Apple's doing to support the cause. So for brands then, when it comes to accurate and reliable information, I would just simply say keep it useful and reliable, help people feel calm, update people with information that affects your company and your employees, and make sure that those include policies and info on how you're supporting them. So people like to know that companies are taking a stand and supporting their employers with certain procedures, policies, and things like that. So really lead by example. And again, 2 quick examples here. Tesco prioritizing an hour, Tesco being a big grocer here in the UK, Tesco prioritizing the first hour of opening for the essential workers, NHS workers, NHS being the National Health Service. And then Chelsea FC, not sure if there's any Chelsea fans on the line, but they have a hotel there, Millennium Hotel, on the grounds of Stamford Bridge, and they made that available for NHS staff. So lovely thing to do there. Second thing is around customer service and support. And back to the research again, a resounding 81% want brands to support vulnerable people in the community in any way that they can. So it's important that they see organizations taking a stand and supporting the community where they can. And excuse me, whoops, apologies there. So Twitter is a great place for taking the pulse of what people are talking about, and great for listening to general customer concerns and then helping to resolve them, hopefully. So having done that listening, make sure that you do interact one-to-one with your customers and to broadcast initiatives that you are running that are helping the cause. Great examples here again, Heinz talking about the 12 million free breakfasts that they're delivering to school children over the coming months. And
sorry, Joe, it's Scott here.
Yeah.
Our next speaker, unfortunately, we need to get her on quite quickly.
Okay.
I apologize for asking.
Sure.
And frightfully unprofessional, but would you mind just putting a bit of pace on to the end and so we can get
Yeah, of course.
Speaker.
Yeah,
sorry about
I've
that.
got, I think, three slides left anyway, maybe 4, but so anyway, the importance of support and understanding your audience. And here Disney releasing their Frozen 2 to market quickly. Distraction and levity then, and this is actually a quick one, perhaps my favorite cat video. Taking our minds off things has never been more important, and humor especially is quite powerful. Just be thoughtful, make sure you do that right, and again, know your audience. One of my favorite pictures, the ingenuity of the couple there who made the cat photo, incredible. And finally, community and positivity. Well, no surprise, people love to see and share great stories of community, of people pulling together and helping one another. And there's been some beautiful things. NHS, people clapping for the NHS staff. You've seen lots of pop stars singing while washing their hands, and of course some amazing balcony performances in Spain and Italy, people singing together. So the point there is think about how you can replace physical events, as eCOM360 has done today, with virtual ones. Some great examples here, a record company, Disco, and then the body coach, Joe Wicks, who does his weekly morning physical education for kids. So that is a wrap, the 4 need states based on what's happening. I just ask you to consider those things as a guide when thinking about your communications approach over the coming weeks. It has never been more important to reinforce your relationships with customers. For what we do now, how we react to this current situation sends a powerful message as to who we are, and we feel it will be remembered. A couple links here for you, which I'm sure these can be sent out later. And I'll close with this. A short, simple message that can be easy to forget. You did the best you could today, and that's enough. And with that, I will say, be kind to one another, and thank you for watching.